every time there's a shooting of a lot of people, so it's always in a public place, by the way. It's always in a gun-free zone. But put that aside for a second, because I get asked, well, how do you prevent this? How do you stop this? How do you stop this thing with a gun? People doing that. And, you know, they end up with the usual suspects. Well, you know, if they only had fewer rounds in a magazine, well, it takes 1/10 of a second to switch a magazine out. And people, well, we can catch them while they're reloading. Oh, that's somebody who is just ignorant about semi-automatic firearms, whether it's a rifle or whether it's a pistol. And anyone who's going to do that kind of thing is not going to use a revolver, because that does take a couple seconds to reload if you do it right. And so I counsel them. I say, look, a person who has decided that they're going to go and kill a bunch of people is no different than a suicide bomber. And the reason for that is that most of them either want to have suicide by cop or someone else, or they take themselves out. Now, there have been some rare cases where they've been interdicted before they can do that. But for the most part, the approach is no different than, well, what do you do to prevent a suicide bomber? Well, you can't prevent a suicide bomber. That person is already planned and geared up to go do what they're going to do. The shooter has already planned and geared up to go do what they're going to do. So unless you have previous intelligence that allows law enforcement to preempt that strike, and I'm not talking about these stupid red flag laws, I'm talking about terrorist level, anti-terrorist level surveillance, which requires a warrant, by the way. So you need to have probable cause to even start surveilling someone. You can't do it because you feel they're going to be that person. Like these stupid kids and stuff said, well, if anyone was going to go shoot up the school, it was going to be Ralph or whatever the guy's name was. That's not enough. Just because you feel like it, that's not enough. You can't stick cops on somebody because of what you feel. Right? And if there is a history of misbehaving, then the person may, if the law allows it, be forcibly locked up and brought before a judge and due process, and now they are declared a mental incompetent. There's due process for that. But withstanding all of that, how do you stop a suicide attack? How do you stop a mass shooter? Well, look at where they go. They go for soft targets. Nothing more soft than a mall or a show or a club or a school or an open venue. They're all vulnerable. And Americans, especially liberal, progressive Americans who like to go to that stuff, are so soft that they don't want to think about what you really have to do to be safe in those environments. The first thing you have to do is harden the perimeter. What does that mean? Well, we'll put an armed person on the premises. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because they're usually out having coffee somewhere when the shit goes down. Or they're right there at the front door and they get the first shot in the head. They have no chance. They have no chance because they're obvious. And now the perimeter is breached. So what's the next thing you do? Well, you harden access. Well, we have an open campus. Then close it. Build fences around your school so that there's only so many ways in. And each one of those ways is protected by metal detectors and armed people at the metal detectors. It feels uncomfortable? Hey, What do you think the airlines did after 9/11? Every single one of them in the world had to put hardened doors to the cockpit and tell the flight crew in the front, we don't care if there's somebody chopping heads off in the back. You will never come out of the flight deck for any reason. If you got to pee, you better pee on the floor, right? Your job is to fly the plane, not go in the back and deal with bad guys. And the doors are locked. Fundamentally changed the culture of air crews and flying almost overnight. And we need to think the same thing if we want to protect our most precious things, and that's our children. So yeah, metal detectors. And the argument is, well, it's not a learning environment. That's not true. That's not true. Prisoners in jail learn. And it doesn't get much more constrained than that. So don't give me this crap about it's not a conducive to learning. It certainly is. Might not be as much fun. So you harden the perimeter. You put metal detectors so that no one can get in without a fight. And by the way, name one black or brown school in the country that has had a mass shooting. Why? Because they all have metal detectors at the door. Keep all those gangbangers out, or whatever the reason. Those bad kids. Think about that. Think about that. So you harden the perimeter. The next thing you do, now let's talk about public spaces. If I had a club, a nightclub, and a lot of them do. I've been in countries where they have a male line and a female line, and you go through them and you get searched and wanded down, and any contraband is confiscated and you never get it back. Right? So when you know you're going to be searched like that, no one can get in. Now that doesn't mean that someone might not wait out in the parking lot or wait across the street and then do some damage that way. But usually in that case, they are targeting specific people. But to go into a venue with a lot of people, you need to be screened. But that's uncomfortable and people don't want to do that. The same is true for sporting events, right? You have metal detectors and you check every bag. Well, that's inconvenient. Well, so is going through TSA. That's inconvenient. But we do it because we want to get on a plane. If you want to go see the game, you're going to stand in line and you're going to get searched. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. What you don't do is say we want to remove access to guns from people who fill in the blanks. And someone gets to make that call. And you can't do that because you don't take someone's constitutional right away because of bad feelings. Well, I don't feel safe. It's not my job to make you feel safe. As a Second Amendment supporter and a person that lives an armed lifestyle, yes, you need to know I am armed and dangerous, and I am only dangerous to those who would do me harm or do you harm in my presence, right? So you don't take that away. And the more people, now if you're going to allow people to have firearms in wherever you are, you want them to be concealed as much as possible. But frankly, I would disarm everybody at the door. I would forcibly do it. That means metal detectors. You can't come in armed. Nobody can. Except my security people who are all armed. And that's how I would do it. I don't feel safe. Well, that's your problem. If you feel afraid, that's your problem. Go seek counseling, right? Because yes, I carry a gun. I'm armed and dangerous, and many of me or others are like that. But guess what? There are laws that say I'm not supposed to do harm to you. You should feel comfort in that. You should feel comfort in that. There are laws that say I will be punished if I do harm to you. That's, you should feel good about that. But just because you think I might do something, I can't threaten you. That's assault. I can't take my gun out and start waving at you and threaten you with it. That's brandishing and assault. You understand what I'm saying? So you should feel you are safe whether you feel safe or not, because your feelings are your business, and I don't really care how you feel. The other thing to consider is when something goes down, it goes down right now. There's nobody coming right now. So you are your first responder, whether it's a medical emergency or whether it's a criminal emergency or a threat to you. There's nobody coming right now. And when they do come, they're not going to prevent anything. They're going to deal with the aftermath of what has happened. So, the sooner you anti-gun people figure that out and understand that you are going to be your own first responder, and there's nobody going to be there when it happens to protect you. No one. And the Supreme Court has said they don't have to, they are not there to protect you. That's not their duty. The Supreme Court has said that. So, think about what it really takes to prevent harm. There's some things you can't stop. When it happens right now. No one's coming right now. If it's not going to be you dealing with it right now, you will suffer the consequences. Or you would wish that there's someone like me standing next to you. The rough man that help you sleep soundly in your bed at night. Snowflake that you are. So, enough of my rant. Thanks for watching, and carry on.